with, we're sitting here in the middle of Sunset Strip. You know the history here. I mean, you know Van Halen and Motley Crue.
Yeah,
go back to the 60s and Love and the Byrds. Do you feel a connection to that? I mean, musically, guitar-wise, I mean, can we maybe hear some of that on the new record?
I definitely feel a connection to it. I mean, the reason why I live in Hollywood is because as a kid I read in rock and roll magazines that's where you were supposed to go, and the bands that were my favorite bands of the time were the Van Halens and whatnot, and they were in the hallowed shrines of the whiskey and Gazzaris, and there used to be a place called the Starwood, and I used to dream of one day seeing those venues, and so I packed up my van and with all my worldly possessions and drove out here to be a part of that, and to try to get my own slice of rock history pie.
Absolutely, absolutely. So actually, going back a little further, I listened to the first Audioslave record, and there's moments on there that remind me, and I mean I could be totally off here, obviously, on The Last Remaining Light. There's sort of a little jam breakdown, little guitar section that reminds me of sort of those, like Quicksilver Messenger Service, Country Joe, The Shrine. It's just like a psychedelic thing. I mean, the guitar is kind of playing pretty simply. And I mean, is that
that music is not the acts that you mentioned are not an influence.
They're not.
But prior to all of the the crazy DJ-like histrionics of my Rage Against the Machine playing, I was an avid woodshedding 8-hour-a-day practicing guy who would jam along with the radio, and so all of those kind of that kind of music, it's possible for it to come through, and those bands were not a specific influence.
Interesting. Okay, the new record, if I understand right, the first record was made. You had played those songs in front of audiences.
The first record we absolutely did not.
Oh, you did?
The band played 0 shows before writing, recording, and releasing the record.
Okay,
our first show ever was on the David Letterman show, in front of a television audience of millions. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this new record, was anything played live?
The songs weren't played live, but as a band, we had a history of playing over a year's worth of gigs to gel.
I see. Then, I mean, explain to me the process of writing an Audioslave song. I mean, does Chris come up with a set of lyrics? Are you influenced by a set of lyrics?
The lyrics are normally the last thing to come on. But how we do, we've in the writing for both records, the one thing that those two processes have had in common is that the initial germ of the song comes very quickly. We write about a song a day. That's the pace. We wrote for the first record. We wrote 21 songs in 19 days. For this record, we wrote. It's very easy for us to assemble verse, chorus, bridge, heroic outro with a complete vocal melody. Like that happens in the course. Yeah, that happens in the course of from an hour to 5 hours in a day's rehearsal. That's very easy to do. There's a longer process then of the refining of the songs, and pre-production, recording, and to the overdubbing, etc. But what's different this time, what was very different about this record than any record I've ever made before, was my contribution to it. Normally I'm very structured in my approach to songwriting. I have a tape recorder, not unlike the one we're doing this interview on, where I catalog, from the day we master the record until the day rehearsals begin for the next record, I'm cataloging ideas, and and then listening back and making meticulous lists and graphs, and this is a, riff 72 is a 4-star riff, and riff 101 isn't so good. And then when it comes time to write an album, going back to those lists and referring and cherry picking and you're doing a lot of self-censorship in that way to get the best ideas. For this record, I threw all of that away, and I consciously made the effort to be more to rely more on spontaneity and intuition in my writing and my playing than in preparation. So the night before rehearsal or the morning of, I'd pick up a guitar and maybe come up with an idea, or just walk into rehearsal with nothing pre-planned and just sort of see what occurred. And it felt very unsafe. And it took a big leap of faith. And then after the first couple of days, we had written songs that I thought were fantastic, and gained a confidence in that process that by just following whatever thread musically I suggested, or Timmy suggested, or whoever suggested, that we could make a fine Audioslave song out of it.
So, what determines whether a riff you come up with is an Audioslave song? I mean, it's a Tom Morello song.
Yeah.
It may not be. I mean, did it come from sort of that map you laid out on the first record? I mean, is that?
No, well, this time very different. I mean, there was that kind of structure. For the last record, I am a great believer in. A good riff is a good riff is a good riff, no matter when you've come up with it. Right. So through my history, I have dragged from, for example, the first riff on the first Rage Against the Machine record, the little, slightly picked intro to the song Bomb Track, was something I wrote when I was 19 years old, and it took it 9 years to make it to an album. There were some riffs on the first Audioslave record that were riffs that I really believed in, that for whatever reason during sort of darker periods in Rage Against the Machine didn't surface, but found a new and exciting light in that band. None of that happened with this record. It was all purely like day of, what can we come up with in rehearsal? And I think it's really added to the excitement of the songwriting process and to the breadth of the music we were able to create.
I just want to touch on Rage for a second. What happened at the end there, or more accurately, did you think that you would take in Rage as far as
no? What happened was very simple. The singer quit the band.
Oh, okay.
Period. That's Rage Against the Machine was a band until the singer, abandoned his comrades on the field of battle.
Conceivably, could some of these licks? I mean, could some of these? Obviously, they wouldn't have been the same song. Just writing lyrics, but the riffs and the feel may have been on the next Rage.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, the process was so different in the songwriting. It was in Audioslave. The process is so much more. There's so much more mutual support, and that if someone initially, somebody might come up with an idea, and I'll cock an eyebrow and think, I'm not so sure, but I'm willing to give it let's see what happens.
Right.
And after a while, you kind of go, that turned out to be a damn fine song. Then and you get that energy back. So it's a process of everyone can continue. Exploring and making musical discoveries, as opposed to fighting for ideas, sort of tenaciously fighting for ideas.
Understand. And again, if I've got this right, tell me, or if I've got it wrong. On the first Audioslave record, you would maybe work from a pre-existing idea, and I tossed out like a Chemical Brothers loop, or And that would be the sort of the figure for a song. Did it work the same way?
No,
here?
not so much this time. But that is true. Like last time, we'd say, I would, say to Brad, imagine, a Chemical Brother. Not that we'd have one in the studio to even listen to. Just sort of imagine what that might be. Play that beat, and let's see what happens. And then it would end up not sounding anything like a Chemical Brothers song, but it gives a starting point to go. And that really not on this one. There was very little of that kind of controlled, planning to it.
Right. Let's talk about some of the songs. Be Yourself is the first single.
That is correct.
And this is for Guitar Magazine, so we're going to talk
of course.
Guitars, and we're going to get a little
my tribe.
I hear you, buddy. It starts with this very cool intro, kind of this single note line. I get kind of this, like a modern surf guitar. Like the single lines,
Yeah.
I mean, first let's talk about the guitars. The main guitars
used on the record, for the all the songs that are in standard 440 tuning are either played on the Fender Strat, my Soul Power guitar, or the old Arm the Homeless guitar, which I've played throughout Rage Against the Machine.
And explain to me what
each of those are. What each of those, okay. The Fender Strat is it's in the case over there. I'm not sure what the serial number is on it and whatnot. And it's slightly modified. They added a toggle switch for me to do the kind of the on-off clicking thing. And an Ibanez whammy bar. I think it's the knife edge. It's the Ibanez wham. It's sort of the Ibanez Floyd Rose knockoff,
Gotcha.
Which is on my other guitars.
And what year is it, Tom?
It is I guess it's 3 years old now.
Oh, it's a new guitar.
Yeah, it's a brand new guitar. Yeah. I just actually, the way I choose my guitars is very little. It more has to do with I like the way they look on the wall,
really?
And then kind of adjust to my what I need, get the right pickups in and whatnot. The Arm the Homeless guitar is a Frankenstein amalgam of parts and pieces through the years. It was a guitar I originally had made at a custom shop here in Hollywood, and it was grossly overpriced, and everything about the guitar was horrible. You think you can design your own guitar. Well, what I know about designing I designed a horrible guitar, and through the years, everything except the piece of wood has changed numerous times on it, until probably about 10 years ago or so, when I just finally stopped the madness and having not reached any adequate destination with it, I just decided that's what it's going to be, and that's been my guitar sound since. The songs in drop D tuning are a Fender Telecaster, like an 82 made in Mexico Telecaster that at the ages ago I traded my roommate a Marshall head for that guitar because I needed something I could go down to D with. But my drop D tuning guitar for years, and the songs in drop B tuning are played with a new Les Paul standard.
And drop B tuning is something you did on the first audio
correct.
And that's kind of
one of the
little bit of your thing.
Yeah, it's a little one of the thing. Yeah, Timmy, interestingly, with Audio Slave, he tunes I don't know the right, it'd be B-E-A-D. So he's like it's 4-string bass, but it's
really
with the low B.
Bass player tunes B-E-A-D instead of E-A-D-G.
Correct.
Interesting.
Correct, yeah.
So a lot of those low-end bass lines,
right.
that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's played, yeah. For the extra massive riffage.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so Be Yourself, the first single, that intro line we talked about, then becomes sort of the counterpoint, kind of works in and around the verse.
Yep.
Vocals, the melody.
Correct.
So, was the vocal put on, and then did you go back and embroider it with this?
All of it. Honestly, all of that happens in Chris. That's the part of the beauty of working with Chris Cornell is that all of that happens kind of consecutive. That day, we walked in the rehearsal studio, and Timmy was playing that bass figure, kind of repeating, droning 4-note bass line, and I just started playing that little melody with it, with showing my, I have a great love of the Cure's record Disintegration, with those very simple, haunting kind of melodies.
So what I call surf guitar.
Yeah, that's sort of my take on it. And Chris just, over that, sang that melody, in the first half hour or so. He sits there smoking a cigarette, listening to the groove, and steps to the microphone and sings the damn song.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then a wah-wah comes in and plays that line. The wah-wah's always been a kind of a part of your thing. Does that come from Hendrix? Does that come from Jeff Beck?
It basically comes from what guitar effects could I afford when I was 20 years old.
Is that true?
Yeah, and I have basically the same setup. I've had the same setup now for over 15 years. It's identical.
Can you run that down?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the setup is unchanged for every Rage Against the Machine, every Audio Slave song and show. It is exactly the same. It's a Marshall 50 watt 2205 head, a PV 4x12 cabinet, which is embarrassing to admit, but it's true. It sounds all right. Which I had to ratchet the PV off the second that I bought. To keep my shame to a minimum. Then the pedals are an MXR Phase 90, an EQ. I think it's a DoD EQ pedal, which is just set for a boost for solos. Just it goes to 11. A DoD digital delay pedal. The Digitech, the original Digitech whammy pedal, not the remake original Digitech, but the original whammy pedal, a Crybaby wah, and then sometimes a DoD tremolo pedal.
And this is what you bring into the studio.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's in front of you and
in front of me in every show and everything. Yeah, we record the songs. It's the band in a room rocking always.
It is that was my next question.
Yeah, band in a room always. Yeah.
So we're talking about live basic tracks?
Yeah, live basic tracks. I mean, if somebody makes a horrendous mistake, that we'll fix it. But yeah, we've always recorded to try to get that. What we do, it's basically playing to our strengths. What we do best is we play as a rock band together, and so that's how we rock the tracks.
And then you'll come back in
overdub. Yeah, the overdubbing process this time took. It was pretty extensive, getting all the mixing the guitar tones and stuff to get it right. But yeah, it's everybody in the room rocking. Chris too, he's singing along with the track while we're rocking it. So
really?
Yeah.
So you mentioned, I'm going to bring up the wah-wah. You said it was at the time the pedal you could afford.
Right.
Is it the kind of thing where you go, well, you know what, I'm going to try a wah on this, or I'm going to try a Leslie effect, or is that the wah is the right tone?
Yeah, well, this time that's interesting because much like with the songwriting, the way that I approached the solos was different on this record than any other record I had done before. Normally, in the songwriting and rehearsing of the songs, an idea for the solo will surface, and then from that day forward, it will be the solo idea for the song with some variation. This time, much to the dismay of some of my band members who thought I had lost my ever-loving mind, whenever the solo sections of the songs would come up, I'd kind of noodle along in an awful kind of Allman, a C-minus Allman Brothers way. But the intention was that when I was going to really go for the solos, I wanted it to feel like the first time I had ever heard that part.
Interesting.
And so I took some time before, recording the solos and did something, again, that I hadn't done in a while. I went back to the woodshed and I just practiced.
You did.
And, hours a day, with the technique stuff, hours a day jamming, trying to get my improvisational skills, sort of feeling I could bounce off of, chord progressions and grooves, feeling pretty comfortable with that. Spent a couple days getting a number of guitar sounds together, with and without the effects, and then when it came time to record the solos, I just said, put up any song you want, don't tell me which one it is, and I would, dial up a sound and just, give me one bar before the solo, and let's just see what happens. And and it was pretty exciting, so there was no planning like wah-wah on this song. It would be, I'd think to myself, this, whatever comes up, I'm going to rock the wah with, and let's just see how it happens. And it was pretty exciting.
And tell me if I've gotten this right. Rick sometimes looks askance at some of your solo work?
Sometimes. Rick Rubin is an excellent producer, but he has never understood what I do as a lead guitar player.
It's like saying I married this woman, but she doesn't really love me.
It's so funny. I mean, Rick and I behave much like an old married couple sometimes. Yeah, he will just the most acidic and sarcastic comments. I'll pick. I'm trying to pick a song off the last record that would be a good example. It'd be like. I'm trying to think one that has a particularly heroic solo. Like I think it was "Shadow on the Sun" from the last record, which has a pretty fine solo in it.
Yeah.
I think my initial notes that I got back from him on that solo were, first half of the solo bad, second half worse, which I take with a grain of salt. I realize sometimes he knows what he's talking about. Sometimes he has no idea what he's talking about. I have a lot of confidence, and when I feel that a thing is right, I'm going to stick with it.
Which is my next question. At the end of the day, the final say.
Absolutely. Yeah. He can complain all he wants.
So, and I don't want to hammer on this, but is it that he just what you do musically is just a little foreign to him? He's a little more used to the
his
John Frusciante doing a thing.
No, he enjoys that, but his idea, he would like every guitar solo to sound like Angus Young. The more it sounds like Angus Young, it's a good solo. The less it sounds like Angus Young, it's a poor solo.
I got you. Interesting. Okay, but he was still a big. You've called him the fifth Beatle.
Yeah, absolutely. He's his info is a little bit different on this record, but he's very crucial in the pre-production. Like once we've written the songs and rehearsed the songs, we will come in and discuss every song. How can it be made better? And sometimes it can be the most subtle changes that can really help.
Right. Take out a line.
Chorus explode, or you might even suggest, let's just try that half step up. And those kind of changes it can make a huge difference. Sometimes there are more dramatic changes than that, but those changes can make a big difference. And then in the actual recording studio, he's great at giving us perspective on when we've got the take, which is harder to do when you're kind of in your own world of recording.
Yeah, right. Your Time Has Come, kind of the big rock
tune,
right?
Yep.
I mean, I get a little bit of a Hendrix.
Yeah. There's definitely that riffage in there.
I mean, Jimmy was a influence on you. I mean, even in the guitar sounds, I hear kind of that very stratty.
Yeah. Well, as far as the guitar sounds, I'm always error towards the. I always emphasize the bridge, the front pickup. I always emphasize the front pickup because I just like the way that. To me, riff rock sounds better with that than like I'm going for the heaviest killer tone of them all.
Gotcha.
And relying on the groove to make it heavier, and that's I think how Timmy and Brad and I sync best together. Hendrix intentionally was not a huge influence on me because it was very hard to be a black guitar player and escape the ghost of Hendrix. Every gig I ever played in my life, someone would yell for Foxy Lady, or Play With Your Teeth, like you couldn't help it. So I would sort of, as a response to that, I tried to kind of veer away from, though he's, a phenomenal guitar player, it felt like it was more of sometimes it was a burden to be a black hard rock guitar player and escape his ghost.
Interesting. The solo.
On Your Time Has Come.
On Your Time Has Come. It's kind of like, and I can't tell what's going on. It's like you're picking and it's being pulled off. And
it's.
Do you know how to do this?
Yeah.
It's like I don't know.
That's close, but that's not it at all. But that's not it at all.
All right.
It's employing the toggle switch on the guitar. So one pickup set to 10 and the other set to 0. So as you switch between pickups, it acts as an on-off switch.
Right.
So I'm hammering on with the left hand and like when you hammer on, then you switch on. So and then like that on arpeggios, and then I've got the digital delay set to a pattern that matches the tempo of the song, so it gives that kind of ping-ponging, kind of chordal, keyboardy sound.
Wow.
Then midway through the solo, and actually that's one's pretty interesting because midway through the solo,
you harmonize
it, but the harmony part was played without listening to the original tracks. I wanted it to sound really random, and I didn't want to have to feel grounded to the initial one. And so then we put both of them up. We're like, oh, that was pretty cool. I never would have been able to do that had I listened to the original one.
Exactly. Like, who's this other guitar player?
Yeah, exactly. What's that guy doing? It's like
wild.
Somebody turned on a radio in the other room.
That was very cool. Lyrically, is this? Are we talking about Vietnam here?
I believe that there are definitely parallels drawn there between the loss in the Vietnam War and the current Gulf War, or the current Iraq War debacle.
Exactly. Yeah. I guess the lyric comes last.
The lyric comes last, yeah.
So you've already gotten the tones. I guess what I was going to ask is, do you ever try to create a sonic picture of a lyric? In other words, we're talking about bullets in the head.
Yeah. Sometimes the big hook of the song or parts of the lyrics will come on the day of the songwriting. The lyrics are fleshed out once all the tracks are basic tracks are recorded. But sometimes there will definitely be a feel of the style of music and the style of lyric are felt on that day when we're writing the song.
Gotcha. Out of Exile, another cool intro. And in fact, I mean, do you look at an intro as a separate little chapter of the song?
Sometimes,
and it needs to be created and
I mean, the setup and anticipation for a big riff dropping is an important part of how we rock, and that song's got pretty good. That's like Timmy on the bass doing that kind of the military chuckas there,
right?
And then I play that little simple melody, which I think heightens the drama.
Right, exactly. And this kind of has like a little strange time thing going on. It's like, is that in 3 or 5?
Oh yeah, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell you. I just kind of tap my foot and play that melody and hope that we all come in on the 1.
So that's not any kind of a jazz or
no.
fusion thing?
We're best when we're 4/4.
And I also get a little bit of a sense of cochise on this.
Yeah. There's a little bit of that kind of tribal chucka at the beginning.
Yeah. And the verse, is it kind of a simple tap, or
no? That's it's plucked, like with 2 fingers. It starts with octaves, and then
yes.
the index finger keeps the root note while a little harmony is picked.
I see.
During the verse. Let me tell you, that's a right arm buster, right? I discovered some new muscles in my forearm.
Doing those kinds of stretches
doing that,
with the fingers.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
Pretty, yeah.
It's interesting. Rhythmically, the drums and the bass in this song remind me a little bit of like a Red Hot Chili Peppers thing.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I mean, is that Rick's thing? I mean, just the sound of the drums.
Oh, we're the sound. Yeah, sound of the drums. That's a positive. I mean, you are listening to rough mixes, by the way. So the sound of the drums.
Are these?
Yeah, those are. With the exception of, I think, Be Yourself. We're still mixing tonight. That's happening. We're going there. So those are. But Rick always likes a very dry drum sound, very present, everything very present speaker without a lot of room.
I see. So the fact that it would be influenced by Red Hot Chili Peppers thing is
no, it would that if there is a similarity with regards to the sonics, it has to do with Rick directing the engineer.
Okay, and the solos, is that's a whammy bar flutter?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you use the whammy bar, but it's not a huge part.
Right, that's
what
true.
You do. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's true.
Again, did that come from? I hate to keep going back to Jimmy, but Jimmy, or is it more of a thing?
It's much more of a sort of an -- metal thing, frankly.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, sort of the post Eddie Van Halen.
Really?
Yeah, that's when those were kind of the Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads posters were the ones that I dedicated myself to as a young aspiring shredder, and so that's
interesting. And the solos typically aren't kind of real long.
Yeah.
Kind of economic and kind of.
And try to the thing that I've always tried to do with the solos is challenge myself to this. This record kind of breaks with that in a little way. On this record, I think you only heard 6 songs, but this record there's kind of some more traditional guitar playing in the solos, whether it's
there is
melodic or fast technical playing, whatever, as opposed to relying exclusively on from records like Battle of Los Angeles, even on the first Audioslave record. Solos often didn't sound very much like a guitar at all, and but this I've kind of thought it's fine to. I've done a lot of records exclusively like that, and so sometimes to sort of go back to one of the things that's in my arsenal is to be able to rock a solo, and try to do that from time to time.
So there is a little bit of a specific move towards more solos as solos.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, definitely. Interesting. And the Curse is the ballad that I heard.
Yeah.
Musically, it's interesting because the verse is really kind of a blues.
Yeah.
I don't know what key it's in. I mean,
it's E.
It's an E, so it's from E to A.
Right.
And the 5 chord, right?
Right.
And then it goes to. Obviously, they're not Soundgarden chords, but there's kind of those dark.
Those are Chris Cornell chords. That actually, Chris wrote Chris came in with acoustic guitar one day and wrote that. What became the chorus of that song. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And he's very. I mean, when he comes up with chords, it's always very counterintuitive to what I would. So it's really cool sometimes to take a song in a different direction. Like I think I had that simple verse for that song, and then Chris had sort of a more exotic blend of chords, and we just pared it down to that part, and all of a sudden the song sort of appeared.
Interesting. So the verse was your idea.
Yeah.
Are you much of a blues guy? I mean,
Albert King is probably one of my all-time great favorite guitar players. And I guess I kind of maybe discovered that maybe more through David Gilmour, and then kind of going back than having blues records as a kid. But I love that. I love the simplicity and the soul that you can get from music like that. I think it provides a great template for Chris to sing over.
Absolutely. What about somebody like ZZ Top? I mean, I listen to what Billy does as a guitar player and the sounds, and is there any kind of a...
I love him as a lead guitar player. Because he's a stylist. Like that guy comes on, I'm like, I know who that is. And that's not always so easy to do. But he has got a lot of taste and flavor in what he does. I don't know that I've ever really kind of learned his licks or anything like that, but I appreciate him as a guitar player.
Interesting. And the solo here is very cool. It sounds like there's a keyboard playing little bell sounds.
No, it's not a keyboard. It's actually percussion. Brad is kind of belling along with the simple melody until that last bar
and
where all hell breaks loose.
Tell me about that.
It's taking the jack of the guitar and removing it from the guitar and touching the metal jack to the metal on the whammy bar, and then with the delay on, rocking the wah pedal so that when you touch the metal to the metal, it just generates a tone. And so by sort of rhythmically tapping that metal to metal and then manipulating the sweep, the EQ sweep of the wah pedal, it creates that kind of crazy train going off the track sound, and then it's echoed so that it kind of ends beautifully like seagulls.
Exactly. So is that something that just happened of the moment?
Yeah, that's absolutely something. That was one of the I hear it sounded too. I was playing that solo. I was like, this sounds too pretty. Like we can't end like that. It had to have the no sellout ending to it. Something to piss Rick Rubin off at the
end. And then we go into a keyboard part. Goes into a piano part.
I don't think there's keyboards on this. Am I wrong?
Am I out of my mind? Is that not a piano? It has to be a piano.
Yeah. There's a piano overdub, which may or may not be in the final mix. But yeah, we tried that on a few songs, and it is currently there. It may.
Okay. Because on the first record, it's specifically all the sounds are made.
Yeah.
So, I guess going back to the caveat from the first record, is it that you are not a keyboard guy? You just
one of the things that I've been not necessarily against, not against piano, and I don't mind records that have keyboards or techno records or whatever, but because of the exotic nature of a lot of the guitar tones on our records, we've always put that disclaimer that it's just guitar, bass, and drums that you're hearing, so you wouldn't think, there's a DJ or whatever. Like, it's all made organically.
I understand.
It's not some sort of prejudice against keyboards. Just to let you know, when you're hearing something that may sound like it's a sequenced, it's really one of us playing.
I understand, because a lot of music that you listen to is exactly that. It's all sequenced. There's no real player. A guy.
Yeah, there was a real a conscious effort to record to 2-inch tape rather than to Pro Tools, because
you did do that.
Yeah, we did record. We did some overdubs. We did some vocals and stuff, and some of the guitar solos. Technology like Pro Tools allows creative, like you or I can make the White Album in our bedrooms now that we know. But at the same time, it changes the creative process.
Right.
Whereas the creativity is happening in front of a computer screen rather than in a room with live rocking drums. And like I said, we play to our strengths, and our strength is rocking live. And so it's always been important to capture that warmth of the tones on the 2-inch tape.
Who is playing the keyboard part?
Just a friend, our guitar tech who just.
I see. So it's not you playing guitar.
No.
Okay. Keyboard. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Number 10. I'm sorry. One last thing I wanted to touch on.
Yep.
There's like a little tremolo guitar that comes in the verse. A little.
on that's not, yeah.
On the end there?
Yeah.
I mean, is that just, again, a tone that, a little
That's just a tone.
texture you're hearing?
Yeah, just a little, it's like a counter melody to the lead vocal there. That's just a simple kind of.
And that's also on one of the two guitars?
That, I couldn't even tell. There were, at that point in the overdubs, there were a lot of guitars in the studio. I have an enormous collection of cheap and untunable guitars. the sort of the give me's through the years, and I'll the pawn shop wall guitars. That that's a pretty color, and they sit around. Every once in a while, one of them gets tapped. They're like kind of the reserve team, and they sit there, and every once in a while, one gets pulled. And I think that was the case for them.
Gotcha. Number 10.
Yeah.
What I call in the beginning, I call it a slide. I know it's not a slide.
Yeah. It just scooped with the whammy bar. There's a delay on, which kind of keeps it echoing, but it's just it's ghost notes hammered on with the left hand, and then scooped up with the whammy bar to whoop whoop like that.
Unbelievable. And from the first record, on Like a Stone.
That's a different.
That's a different.
That's the whammy pedal. Because those sweeps are much more dramatic. That's the whammy pedal, I think, set 1 or 2 octaves. Wait till we get to rehearsal. I'll tell you whether it's 1 or 2 octaves up. But it's the whammy pedal set to an octave or 2 up, and then swept, just sort of playing the I think it's a minor scale, basically.
I see. And then on number 10, these huge guitars come in on the bridge.
Chorus, like you mean the big? There's like the big heavy guitars
exactly.
coming. Yeah.
I mean, can you just describe how you built that?
Okay. Yeah. Well, that was a sort of a marriage of two ideas. The first riff written for the record was the big heavy riff in that.
Oh, really?
That's actually probably the only riff on the record that did not sort of generate spontaneously within 24 hours of the rehearsal in which the song was born. That one was actually in English. I was dying of some sort of viral infection in a British hotel, a fever of 104. The doctor that was there, like, the priest is reading my last rites. Unfortunately, I had an acoustic guitar in the room, and in the midst of this fevered delirium, had to my cassette player played that riff and thought maybe one day someone else will be able to make this in the last Audio Slaves. And that was actually the first song we worked on, Corner of My Eye, where we married that kind of that Zeppelin-y, bluesy verse with that massive, Judas Priest riff that is a pretty dynamic,
interesting
high point of the record.
Yeah, absolutely. The solo begins kind of slow, and then there's there's also a slide thing happening. Is that same?
No, that's all. Oh, in the soul. Yes, correct. Yeah. It's scoop. Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Same thing.
Yep.
And then it kind of goes into some Tom Morello and woodshedding.
Yes, he's been practicing.
Because I mean, we look at you as an accomplished guitar player and a writer and a guy who's had very successful records and stuff. I mean, do we tend to look at Tom Morello as this guy who really has the serious burning chops?
Yeah. Well, I've had, for better or worse, I've had them, but haven't chosen to, to highlight that on the records we've made. Erring more on the side of sonic experimentation rather than kick-ass shredding. And I thought maybe it's time for a little kick-ass shredding. And
I'm sorry.
No, and so on that, sort of midway through the solo, it's kind of a go for broke. And that's kind of a whole tone meets Lydian kind of. It's. I mean, one of my influences, which you hardly hear anywhere, was very important to me, was Alan Holdsworth. It was the first out guitar playing I had ever heard, and I don't understand all of the harmonic juxtapositions like I'm sure he does, but I know when it sounds good.
Interesting. Yeah, because I'd put Yngwie McLaughlin and Steve Vai.
Yeah.
I kind of got all around
Yeah. I like Steve Vai very much too.
Do you?
Yeah, Steve Vai. Yeah.
Have you heard his new record?
No, I haven't. Is it good?
Yeah, it's.
I'm a big fan of his. I think he's great. I think he's great.
It's a concept record, and he kind of lyrical, and he's singing about. Interesting.
Yeah. A couple of my favorite guitar records were the Public Image record that he played on.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's like seeing him in that kind of context. Yeah, right. I think it really throws him out of his normal elements and really pushed him in ways that and the first David Lee Roth record was one of my favorites.
It was good.
Awesome record.
Good rock playing.
Tasty.
Definitely, yeah. Doesn't remind me is acoustic guitar.
There's, I think,
On the
acoustic
intro?
guitar. No, that's electric. That's actually through a Vox. That's I think. I don't think we're acousticing in that one. Maybe in the bridge section, but it's just a real clean.
No, on the bridge is a clean electric. I'm not trying to tell you what I'm hearing. Because in the bridge I have clean electric, but the intro is an acoustic. That's not an acoustic.
That's not an acoustic. That's just real clean, dry kind of.
Which guitar is that?
That one I believe is the Soul Power guitar, the Strat. I think that's through a real tight kind of present Vox, which I've never. That's actually outside of my. When I do the guitar overdubs, I've got my standard rig there. I've got a little Music Man, old kind of twin amp, and brought a Vox in this time, which I never played on before. But my guitar tech was just like, dude, I forget what song was like. That song will be great with a Vox, and I didn't trust him, and then finally, relented and used it on a couple of songs, including that one, I think.
And the solo has a wah.
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah. It has kind of this. Is that the wah creating that kind of like this? I call it a lo-fi kind of a honking.
Right. Yes, absolutely. That, and I think the solo on that one is played with that's the Soul Power guitar as well.
It is.
Yeah.
You do play acoustic guitar. I mean, you play on.
There's a few songs with that.
Yeah.
Be Yourself has the acoustic in the
Does it really?
in the bridge. Yeah, in the bridge. The acoustics are pretty pushed in the bridge too.
Wow.
It's 4 guitars playing that though. It's like but the electrics kind of washed and panned, and the acoustics a little bit more present.
I see. What kind of acoustic do you play, Tom?
Oh, that was they never. I have again my own collection of crappy acoustic guitars, which nobody ever likes the way that they sound in the studio. The final take of those acoustics was, I think I borrowed a guitar from Rick. It was some Martin that I borrowed from Rick. We had a few in the studio, I'm not sure which one.
I mean, are you comfortable on the acoustic?
Oh yeah, the only guitar I have in my home is an acoustic guitar.
Is that right?
Is a Hondo 2 classical, beat to crap classical guitar. That's when I write riffs at home, it's on that guitar. The heaviest metal Rage or Audio Slave riffs were written on that little.
Seriously?
Yeah. And I just hear it in my head. I know when I play at 3 a.m. when I play this little riff into that recorder, I know what it's going to sound like tomorrow with the enormous guitar, bass, and drums.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, I play acoustic all the time.
We're going to have to move into pictures pretty soon.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Got me a call?
No, we can go. We started a little bit late. I was late, so we can go next year. We can go 10 minutes or so.
Does it make sense? Would you maybe want to touch on some of the songs I didn't hear?
Sure. Yes, we haven't made choice. We haven't paired with the ones you heard. Will most definitely be on the record. There's quite a large pool of songs that we'll narrow from. If I guess off the top of my head, there's a really great heavy song called "The Worm," which is just a ferocious. I think it's a marriage of one of my big riffs and one of Timmy's big riffs and 2 big riffs devouring each other. That has a huge kind of when the levee breaks Bonham-esque beat to it and a insane Chris Cornell vocal. That's one of my favorite songs. Then there's some really beautiful. There's a diversity of material that can. Like what you heard were a diverse batch of songs. That diversity continues in other ways. There's some that are more groove oriented, like kind of beat oriented, and with sort of a slight techno influence in the drum. It's all organic, but like in the drum playing, where the guitars play kind of like sparks and showers. There's a couple of really kind of lovely, haunting, driving songs, not too dissimilar from "Be Yourself," but the range of the guitar soloing is pretty wide beyond what you heard there.
Yes.
Sometimes it gets pretty crazy, and sometimes it's very subtle. And there's a song, I can't remember what we have. I have the working titles for the songs. Have only more recently gotten their official titles, but there's some real simple. It spans from bizarre Robert Fripp crazy playing to some really simple melodic, David Gilmour like noodling on it. It's one of my favorite guitar playing records. It feels really like where I'm at now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, would there ever be a desire to do a guitar record, or is this basically?
I don't feel any inhibitions in what we're playing now, and there were. If you had asked me that question 12 years ago, I would have given you a completely different answer. But I wouldn't even call it constraints, but I like the great rock song, and I like the guitar player in the band, and
I hear you.
And it's soloing in that context, as opposed to what can we do beyond it. I wouldn't I don't feel stifled in any way creatively with the band songs. So.
I mean, you bring up a very good point, because typically you listen to most guitar records for me, other than a few. I'm not a big jazz guy.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jeff Beck's Blow by Blow, I think is unbelievable. But yeah, you hear it, and because there is only the guitar and there's so much freedom, it kind of tends not to say anything.
Exactly. And that's why, one of the throughout my sort of guitar career, one of the things that I've thought is most important is to embrace constraints. And whether it's a very whether it's using only 4 little effects pedals, whether it's this, I have the identical amplifier settings on my. You could see them; they're marked on that little Marshall that I've used since 1988. Like, it's time to play the guitar, turn them to that, and by embracing those limitations, the instrument then becomes your imagination.
Exactly.
And you don't just run to Guitar Center to try to buy that new piece of gear and chase this, that, and the other. And I found an endless wellspring of inspiration, and just trying to think outside the box with a limited set of gear, rather than having an endless set of gear and not, knowing what to do with it.
Interesting. I mean, John Frusciante in some ways works from that same pattern.
Yeah.
He said that he actually pulls back when he's playing. He'll consciously play something simple. I'm just wondering if that Rick Rubin's working with these two bands, if that's a coincidence or.
No. I mean, that's my that theory predates Rick by a decade.
I gotcha. Are there new guitar players? Are there modern guitar players that touch you in any way? I mean, we touched on we talked about guys 60s, 70s, 80s. There's a couple here and there, but guys you said no, not really. So
who I really like lately, who is there's a couple guitar players I really like. Omar from the Mars Volta is really like Rage toured with at the Drive-In. I remember watching him play, going, like, that's crazy. Like, it's so outside the box, but not in a here I go, check me shredding. It's a different way of approaching music and the instrument, which I think is some of the most challenging, exciting guitar playing. And again, it's in the context of a great band too, which I like. I'll tell you, I enjoy the fella in the Muse.
Say it again.
The Muse. That guy has some interesting idea. Is not afraid to rock and not afraid to just kind of is innovative on the other front. Those are two lately that that are interesting. Generally, I don't find guitar players particularly interesting, frankly. That influence and inspiration to me comes from other sources than guitar playing. In the past, it's come from honestly, like a pretty wide variety. I've tried to choose influences that were non-musical to bring into my playing, whether it would be a Malcolm X speech or a trip to the zoo, or
something you read,
or the sounds of the city, or like a horse, a horse race, like something like the feelings and. To try to just draw from different places and see where that takes your guitar playing, as opposed to, pentatonic this and that.
Interesting. A couple last questions, Tom. The fact that you play in a trio, was that something specifically you've always wanted to do? Did you never want to play with a second guitar player?
There's no room, frankly. And also, there's a particular and great musical chemistry that Tim and Brad and I have. And it is their playing that has moved and shaped, my playing through the years. From the early days of Rage Against the Machine, where they were playing hip-hop beats, so I became the DJ, and that really, I started thinking guitar in an entirely different way. It's like not what would Yngwie do, but what would Dr. Dre do?
I see.
You know?
So it's not what would Eric Clapton do with Cream.
Correct.
What would
Correct. Yeah. And that guy, and then once I got off that kind of beaten path of guitar playing has to be within these parameters, then all bets were off.
Gotcha.
So.
And what are the plans now?
Plans now are to continue doing some more press, but beyond to look particularly handsome in photographs. That's the next plan. And then there's a U.S. tour which begins alarmingly soon. And we start rehearsing on Monday. I think doing a month of dates prior to the record's release here, coming over to Europe for 6 weeks of festivals and our own shows in June, July, and then there'll probably be a big U.S. end of summer U.S. tour here.
Any plans to go to Japan?
We have not yet made those plans. We will certainly get to Japan and South America on this before the year, before a year's time has passed. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very.